Welcome to Squatchin Holler.
In the mist where the trees lean low, Squatchin Holler's got a tale to show. Whispers creep like a creature's faint howl. Every shadow's got a secret to growl. Monsters rise where the stories are told. Squatchin Holler where the legends are born. Are they here? Are they gone? Who can say? In the holler, the truth just slips away. Huge footprints fade where the creek runs thin. A lantern sways, let the search begin. Rustling leaves, but there's no one near. Is it the wind or the beast you fear? Every echo's a question, every rustle's a clue. Squatchin Holler's got its eyes on you. Monsters rise where the stories are torn. Squatchin Holler where the legends are born. Are they here? Are they gone? Who can say?
Now, with your Squatchin Holler hosts, Roger Williams, Amanda Stowers, and Ashley Range. Remember, this podcast can be downloaded everywhere great podcasts are found. And now the show.
Hello.
Howdy, howdy.
It worked. I'm always, surprised when things work because I'm such a low-tech dude. So, how are you, Amanda?
I am good, Roger. How are you tonight?
Doing good. Been a long day. Been all over. Heather had her eye surgery this morning, and we got back and took a nap, so she's doing good.
Good deal.
We got Mark Green on tonight, y'all. And when you meet people, you just get a feeling about them. And Mark's one of those guys, if y'all don't know him, he's a super good man. And the stories you hear tonight and some of the stories, you can go watch him on other shows or documentaries. He's been on Flash of Beauty, which was really cool. You take it to the bank. And it's nice to have friends like that, and we've become friends, I think. And Amanda, I'm glad that y'all get to meet tonight. Actually,
I am actually very excited to meet Mark tonight because I've heard nothing but great things about him as I'm, building my quote unquote friend group of squashers here, and so yeah, I'm very excited to meet him.
Now don't get it twisted up. Becca's the boss. I see her backstage.
I feel you, darling. I know how that is. Good for you.
We love her too. Now, I was watching a video with Mark, and he was way back in the woods, and he was up on a mountain, and it hit me. People all the time, the people that come in, they'll say, "Well, where do they hide?" Because we're used to, house after house after house, even in the country here nowadays, it's still, it's growing. But I did a little bit of digging, and where Mark is, around Talladega National Forest, there's just a little over 392,000 acres in that one area, and Bankhead is 181,000. And then I'm like, okay, so let's just go ahead and the United States, there's 193 million acres of national forest and government controlled land. So
that's a lot.
when you come in and you say you ask these questions, and the questions are great, right? New people come in, they have questions. Where do they hide? Well, there are plenty of places to hide, and Mark can tell you it doesn't it doesn't have to be really remote, because he's taken reports from people that have them around their home in a populated area. So we'll get Mark in here, and y'all thank y'all for being here. I see all y'all. We got our family, our Bigfoot family here tonight, as most nights. So let's bring Mark in. Hello, Mr. Green.
Hey, how y'all doing?
Becca, how you doing, Miss Becca?
I'm
Have you
good.
have you a seat? What you
I'm just taking care of animals, so I just wanted to say hi before I went on.
She's farmsteading. Yep.
Yeah,
But
farm
got a
farm life
shirt
waits
full of
for
eggs now.
everybody.
Hurtful.
got to keep Mark fed.
That's
That's
it.
it.
Got to
That's
keep me
it.
fed. That's
Y'all
it.
have a good night.
All right, good to see you.
Nice to meet you, darling.
I hope when y'all was talking, it was going crazy out here with sirens and fire trucks. I don't know what was going on, but something back in yonder. So
No, we didn't hear
I
you.
hope somebody's house or something ain't on fire. But
I
Yeah,
hope
sound like 2 or
everybody's
3
all right.
engines went that way. So
I used to, we had a store on the interstate for 30 years, and you hear people, they get caught in traffic, and they're like they're caught up into and they might be late or whatever, and they complain, and they're kind of mad about it, and a lot of times we don't think somebody else is having a worse day than you, because they're the reason the emergency services are heading that way. So
right.
and then driving to Nashville today, whew, it's you're lucky to make it back and forth. So, but Mark, I know we've talked a lot, and in a lot of your encounters, like the very first one, I know it shook you up, and it made you curious about these things. And one of the there's 2 points to that first encounter you had while you were hunting that I found interesting. That was the first time I believe I'd heard anybody talk about the Bigfoot, or the boogers dropping on all fours to get away, make a quick getaway.
Right.
And really interesting is when you said it had flipped its hair over its eyes, and it was looking through the hair hanging down to kind of hiding the nose and the eye region.
Right. Right.
So
Yeah. You had, I've only heard 1 or 2 more people, I think, on podcasts talking about the hair being hung over their face, and one of them was PJ. That one that she's seen, and there's somebody else was talking about that, but I can't remember who exactly that was talking about that. And
was it more
that
of
was
a skunk ape story that the other person was telling? Maybe
it may have been.
do you remember? I remember a little bit. I can't remember exactly.
I remember one on, I about want to say it's one of the Small Town Monsters documentaries, or maybe it was that Bob Gimlin guy on YouTube, that he talks about one, and about 90% sure it was, maybe it's in the Falk Monster area, where it had the long stringy hair in front of its face, but at night they were able to still see the glowing eyes under and through the hair. So every time I talk about it, I just remember whatever animated visuals that they used in that, and it's no thank you.
And I know some people are like, why are you focusing on that? Well, anything that shows a little bit of elevated intelligence and knowledge of camouflage. I mean, I don't know of any animals that would on purposely do that, a conscious thought to hide that area. And when Mark said that day, I got goosebumps.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I couldn't tell no face features. It was all just, it reminded me of some of the teenagers, that some of the haircuts they have where the hair covers most of their face,
Mhm.
and they had to move the hair where they can see to walk, and that's what it kind of reminded me of. And and then the all fours going down on the ground when it went down. I really realized how fast these things were. Well, right at that moment, I didn't really realize what I was looking at. But what I'm saying, over time, I really have realized they have the speed. They can catch a deer if they want to catch a deer. There's no way that they can move when they need to move. And I mean, that one shot out of there like a rocket, you know.
Yeah.
And you know, he was covering some territory in a hurry. So yeah, that is. And I haven't heard too many other people talk about seeing them run on all fours too much either. You've heard some here and there. You know, most people's encounters is them on 2 legs walking off, or something like that. So we do believe that was probably a juvenile. The late Tal Banco. That's what me and him discussed, and my friend Keith used to do a lot of Bigfoot research, and we feel that was a juvenile that I was looking at that day.
And I saw you talking about Tal. Of course, he passed away years, before I met y'all, and I would have liked to talk to him. You know, it's sad when years of and I don't care who it is, it's sad when people pass away, but it's really sad when you have that lost knowledge. But at least he left behind some books and stuff for everybody to read, and
he was a good guy. I wish a lot of people in the Bigfoot world now would have really got to meet him. He had a lot of insight. He started off flesh and blood, but later on he come to the realization too that there was more to him. In fact, he's the first man that ever called me and told me that he's seen one possibly cloak, and he said I can't believe my eyes, So, and that was about the time we started having a lot of other strange things happening that wasn't making sense,
right,
out of the norm for what we'd been dealing with, and that's too when I started saying, well, there's something more to them too. There's a lot of agreement there, and we were probably talking about that long before this has really been brought up. I can't remember when this stuff really started getting brought up, but I think we were already kind of going off in that direction before a lot of it was talked about on YouTube or Facebook or wherever, because it didn't surprise me when I started seeing people talk about it. I thought, well, some other people are starting to figure it out too. There's something else to this.
Well, and there's a difference between people who get out in the field and you got people that happen up on a Bigfoot or whatever, and then you have people that are researching and spend decades, because you find that a lot after a first sighting. It just, I know what it does to you. Some people push it back, but man, you're right there in the thick of it. So I know you've talked to people from all over the Southeast, I'm sure. And one thing that amazes me, the first time I met you and Becca was at Greg's man cave. We were standing on the porch, and you were showing me, or she was showing some pictures from your home area there. And I was scrolling through, and there was one that I stopped, and I'm like, Mark, have you ever seen that picture that Bart Nunley drew? And I'm like, that looks, it didn't look like a Bigfoot to me. It looked like that drawing. And bringing that up, you had a pretty scary encounter just a few weeks ago, and I know you've told it. I haven't heard it. I've talked to you a little bit, or texted, but can you give us like where you were and what happened that day? I know it has to be mind-boggling, because a booger is one thing, but it kind of looks like something that we may see in a science book or in a movie or whatever, but what you saw, that's a totally different thing to me. It scares me.
let me back up that way before I go into that day. That way you kind of get what was happening. We had a fire pit. We have our monthly fire pit here at our home. That would have been the first weekend in August. We had a pretty good crowd that night. Had a pretty good crowd. Had several people that had walked off toward my pond to smoke. And back this early spring, I lost a couple of trees on my wood line. They're laying out in my field, and I've been slowly working on them. And they got my attention. They said, "Hey, come here." And I walked down to where they were at, and they said, "There's something in one of those treetops." Now, of course, the trees lay it on the ground, but it's still got leaves on it. They said, "There's something black looking moving around in that treetop down there." I went to focusing in, and we did see movement. They took several pictures. You can tell there's something there. Now, what it is, we really don't know, because it's a pretty good piece over there. So I'm thinking in my head, well, this is probably the boogers. They're back. August, September is when I have a lot of stuff happen here at the house. That's when my corn patch pictures happened. That time was in August. We found a lot of footprints around August, September before. In fact, that's when a lot of stuff was going on around the house. Is during that time period. So that Saturday night, seen that. Everybody left. I was out here cleaning up. Didn't notice anything. I did take my thermal and scan the wood line and scan around where I live. Didn't really see nothing. So I said, well, I don't really know what that was, but it's possible it could have been a booger. Nothing happened there the rest of the week. I had to work Monday and Tuesday. And then I was off Wednesday, Thursday, had to go back on Friday. So this year I didn't plant no big corn patch or big watermelon patch. I just planted a small one up here next to the house. So I've been trying to keep that field discing on a regular basis, keep the morning glories killed. I got some ground cherries, different stuff trying to come up out there, and I'm trying to keep them down, not letting them seed out, And I went out there about 2:00 that afternoon. It's on a Thursday, and I had plowed one direction, and then I turned and started plowing the other direction. I was pretty close to being done. It's getting close to around 4:00. I would probably got within maybe 100 and something feet of the wood line, heading toward the wood line. About that time, 2 buck deer come busting out of that wood line at full stride. And if you've seen deer at full stride, when they are full stride, buddy, they covering some ground.
All right.
These 2 bucks were heading right toward me. It's like they didn't even see the tractor or didn't care or whatever. I'm going like, what, I'm thinking like, what in the world is these 2 deer coming at me like this for? They get within about 50, 60 feet of me, and they do a broad turn on me and go to my neighbor's property. So I'm sitting here, I'm in the open field. So I'm watching them, letting the tractor roll on, watch them enter to the wood line, and they had their tails up. I mean, you could tell these deer were wanting out of there. When I turned my head back forward, of course, I'd done probably covered 50, 60 feet or even more, and I was a lot closer to the wood line. There's an opening there. Not no big opening, but there's an opening there. And this land behind my field is a cutover the timber was cut last year. So it's come up in a lot of weeds. They're 6 to 7 foot tall. But when I looked through that opening, I could see a solid black object sitting there looking back at me. I could tell it was lined up with me. At first, I thought a booger. Then it turned. When it turned is when I was able to see the head on it. It had a short muzzle, not no long muzzle. It was a short muzzle, and then I could see the little bitty ears. They wasn't huge ears. This thing was solid black. I mean, jet black as you can get. It didn't show its teeth. It didn't do anything. It just turned slowly. I could see its profile. And then it turned and went into the weeds and disappeared. Did not see a tail. All I could really see was part of the arms, the shoulder, the head. This down in here did look kind of barrel chested. And then from there, what I could tell may have been smaller, but it was hard to tell. Of course, I'm going, of course, I come straight to the house. I turned the tractor and brought the tractor on.
It's time
I
to
don't
go
blame
home.
you.
I come on up here, got off the tractor. I called Rebecca, told her, I said, hey, I think I just seen possible a Dogman. And then me and her talked to me. And of course, she was at work. She couldn't talk long. So I called Spencer. Talked with Spencer a little bit about it. Told him what was going on. And he says, he said, that's kind of what it sounds like. Of course, that night I was a little nervous. We done a live that night. We had our Thursday night live. But we're having to do our lives on Thursday night one week, Friday on another, because of the way I'm working now. And we want to keep our lives going because of the prayer list and all that. And so we done a live that night. And I'm going to tell you, it really started working on me. The longer I thought about it, the more, I guess you'd want to say, anxiety started kind of working in on me.
Yeah.
The reality of it all probably started setting in.
Yeah.
Got a little emotional on that video that night. When you see things like this, the first time I've seen a booger, reality check. I had a reality check. Seen a few more. They hadn't really done nothing towards you harmful. I mean, they do their little things, but nothing real harmful towards you. I'm looking at something that I've heard bunches of people telling how aggressive they are, how they want to attack people. So, I'm thinking here I am. I've got farm animals. I got a wife. I got, dogs. I got neighbors, So I'm thinking all this, what am I going to do here? How am I going to handle this situation? Later on, I did talk to Kumbo and Troy and a few others, Gary and a few other folks about it that's dealt a little bit more with Dogman. Now, a few people even said it could have been a gugway that I was looking at. Of course, they said if it was a gugway, I'd probably know it pretty quick because I'd probably hear about animals and stuff in my area, even possible mine, start going missing. But so far, none of that has happened. I went back to my corn patch pictures from a couple of years ago. I know a lot of people have seen them. And there's one picture in there, and that picture you're talking about, where there looks like a Bigfoot that has a bucket head. That's what I call it, the bucket head Bigfoot, because it's just looks like a bucket on its head. But when you scan over to the right side of that picture, there is a canine looking creature over on the right side with a big old head. And this thing here had a big old head too. I mean, this head did not look proportional with its body. It almost looked like its head was just too big for its body. I should have said that a while ago, but I mean, its head was just too big. I mean, that thing was huge. When it was facing me, you couldn't tell it that much. When it turned, I could really see the outline.
Kind of long from the back of the skull to the
I'd
front,
say
maybe.
Probably about like that. I would say a good foot and a half, probably. Maybe even a little bigger. Of course, I'm looking at it from probably at the time when I seen it. It was probably a good 25 yards inside that cutover from me. And I think one reason it stood out real well that day, everything's down there green, as green as it can get. And here you are with a solid black object Also, the sun was in behind it. Of course, I had shade to my advantage that day because the trees that's on the wood line were putting shade toward me. But that sun was just making it shine like, I mean, it couldn't help but be seen.
Right.
You talked about its head being so big and disproportionate. Was you able to see any kind of neck, or was it just almost just, I don't know how to describe it, like one big thing there with the muzzle?
Yeah, it looked more like one big thing. I couldn't really see a neck.
Okay.
And all this happened probably within, when I turned and looked, it looked at me, it turned, and it walked into that brush. So you're talking probably a good 7-8 seconds, maybe 10 at the most. I mean, that's how quick this happened.
Would you say it was more humanish shoulders or canine-ish shoulders?
Looked more humanish to me. But its arms were down, so I can't really,
right.
But it did look like the chest area was kind of bigger,
right?
Kind of puffed up a little bit. What I could tell. Me and Rebecca went back and done a video a few days, it was about a week later. We went down there on a Sunday morning. I got off work and I told her, I said, let's go ahead and do a live. I apologize to everybody for the audio that day. I did not realize our mics had to stay that close to the phone. And sometimes I would get 40, 50 foot ahead of her and nobody could hear what I was saying. And we did not realize at the time that that mic had to stay pretty close to the phone we had it plugged into. But we went out there. We walked into the cutover. And there's a good trail there. You could tell the deer have been really using that trail where it was standing. And everybody got a good look at what that cutover looked like, how tall the weeds were. Because I walked in there some, and you could tell a lot of them are taller than me. And I'm figuring this thing was in about the 7-foot range because it did seem like its head was a little bit above some of the weeds. Of course, I'm 6'1", and when I went in there, some of the weeds were above me. When I stepped in there that day, even though Rebecca was right behind me, I was still nervous because I really could tell that something could ambush you very easily in there, thick as that stuff was. It would be on top of you before you could even think about it.
Yeah.
When I got to really looking to see how thick it was in there, it really growed up over the summer. Plus, we had all that rain in the spring and summer, and it just really made the weeds and briars and all that stuff come up out there. So, like I said, it could be on top of you in just a second. You never know it was there. But since then, there's been little odd things happening, but not nothing really scary or really what you would call threatening. We found a few of our gates open out around the barns. Sister has been getting tore up at night a little bit. Especially it seems like on the nighttime at work.
And for y'all that don't know, sisters, they're sweet dogs. So
yeah. She's been getting tore up. Now she ain't barking, she's doing her growling.
Yeah.
She's doing her deep growling, which is different. Usually if there's a dog or a cat out here or a person, she has a squeal bark. It busts your eardrum when she lets off with it. This is more of a deeper rumble. And she kind of bristles up. And it's usually toward the window I sleep the closest to. My side of the bed's pretty close to a window. And Rebecca said a lot of nights sister will lay in my spot when I'm at work. And a lot of nights she'll stand up right there and just go to staring at that window growling. A few weeks ago, I was on with Old Line Cryptids with Jeff and Jerry. About 9:30 going on toward 10 that night. I've been hearing little odd noises out here whining, and just like tonight, that's one reason I'm out here doing it out here is because, it's possible something could, take place. I begin to learn that every time we have a live or do something out here, little weird things start happening. So that night, I kept hearing little noises like something was falling. I was thinking acorns out of the trees. I mean, we're in a real dry spell right now in Alabama. We finally got a little rain last night, but it didn't do enough to help anything. So acorns and leaves are dropping pretty good now. So during the show, I'm thinking, well, that's acorns. But sister was sitting out here with me. And I noticed sister sometimes would sit up and just start staring around, which is not unusual. She does that some. But on in the show, all of a sudden I heard something, like something got thrown, and I could hear it coming through the leaves of the trees, and it fell right over here behind me, right behind where I'm sitting, about the same spot I was that night, right over here behind me toward the trucks. You can probably see one of the trucks, the reflection off of it over there now. Something hit over in there behind me. I heard it. Sister heard it because she looked behind me, and then she went to staring at the corner of my shop, which is just right yonder. I had a flashlight with me. I had my thermal. I did turn the light on a few times, just kind of peeping around. I didn't see anything. I mean, right after I got off the show with Jerry and them, I did take my thermal and really start scanning around. And I did hit one heat signature down at the wood line, but I'm pretty sure it may have been a deer, but I'm not 100% sure. It was there for a second, didn't disappear, but it was a blob. That's all I can say it was. It disappeared back into that cutover. Went on in the house, told Rebecca, she was in the bed waiting on me to come in, and I told her, I said, we may have some stuff happen tonight. Well, later on during the night, the sister did get up and growl again, on up about 2 o'clock in the morning. That deep growl toward that window. Rebecca pointed something out to me this week that I hadn't really caught. There's a little trail right there close to coming up toward my window. We have azaleas and some other bushes planted there. Of course, we got a water hydrant there too, but I don't go to that water hydrant much to turn it on. But there's something has walked up there several times because it has smashed down everything.
And that takes more than 2 or 3 times too to do.
It does, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So hey, that's.
I don't know if that's cool, spooky, or both. I was saying I don't know if that would be cool or spooky or both, or something you don't want around.
Right. Well, I mean, since me and her had moved here in 2019, the first year I did not notice nothing going on here. Didn't even think about it. They've showed up. The boogers have showed up several other places I've lived, which I've stayed within 2 miles or 3 miles of Creepy Mountain, which is my main research area. So I've always been close to where the mountain is. Of course,
now, is that its actual name, or is that the name that you've given it?
You tell her that quick story of how that got the name. It's fun. It's a funny story. I'm like,
no, I'd love to hear it. I'm not familiar with it.
Go ahead, Mark. I love his story.
Well, really how it got started was when Finding Bigfoot come here in 2013. I had a friend that was a research partner with us a lot, Adam. Very good audio man. In fact, that's what his college degree is in audio and stuff. And that was his big thing, was doing audios. And we had a guy catch a thermal. He has passed away now, Paul Hunsley. He caught a thermal from Creepy Mountain back in 2012, and it's called the Creepy Mountain Thermal, where he caught a upright figure standing in the wood line right there at the camp. I was not there that night. I was at work, but some of my other friends were there, and that's what they caught. When Finding Bigfoot come, of course, we didn't want to call it the real name of the place. So Adam he said, well, this place is creepy, so we're just going to call it Creepy Mountain. And that's kind of where the name come in, and it stuck from then on, and we all just call it Creepy Mountain. Of course, that's not the real name, and a lot of people know what the real name is, and they know where it's at. But it is private land. It has gates on it, and of course, we got cameras at the gates, and of course, it's a hunting club. So there's a lot of people in and out up there, especially during hunting season. But now in the summer, the place is about dead as a doornail. There is a lake up there that a few people go fish at and stuff. So it's about 10,000 acres. Now, that ain't the whole club no more. We lost a lot of land, but what I'm getting at is 10,000 acres of nothing but woods right there in one spot. And then you're taking everything around it that is privately owned. I'm going to say we're getting on up to 15,000, 20,000 acres pretty easy, because the rest of it is row crop land, pasture, hay fields, a lot of woods, a lot more ponds and lakes. And then due south, if you leave off that mountain and start walking due south, you could go for 40, 50 miles through pretty much nothing but woods. House here, house there occasionally. Because right south of it is a bunch of timber property that's owned by a timber company. And they've got thousands of acres in there. And so, I mean, it's a very good spot for something to head south. But that's how Creepy Mountain came about. Was we were trying to come up with a name, and everybody's been up there. They'll tell you real quick, that's a creepy place. So,
the name, it sounds like the name works for it.
Is that the area that we were talking about earlier, where you had all of the structures, the tree structures, and
yes,
okay, yeah, that's what. Do you remember what the name of that video was that was the guy shot? They were really looking at a lot of those. I watched it today. I should have wrote that down. But y'all please, when the show's over, all you have to do is go to YouTube or even the internet and put in like Mark Green and Bigfoot or whatever, Creepy Mountain, and a lot of this stuff will show up, and you'll get to see when he's talking about 50 miles of nothing. He's up on the ridges or up on the mountains, and you can see it out there. I'm like, Creepy Mountain looks like a molehill from where you're standing in one spot.
Oh, yeah, you're talking
pointed
about
out
up on Skyway, which is out in Talladega National Forest, going up toward Cheehaw. There's a road up there on top, 600-1. I'll tell everybody what it is. And you have 600-2. You can pretty much stay on a dirt road, a rough dirt road. You need a 4-wheel drive on most of the parts of that. Then it comes out right at Cheehaw. You'll get on a paved road for a little while, go through Cheehaw State Park, and then when you get on up to Heflin, you can get back on another dirt road and go way up through Chocolaca National Wildlife Area and come out at Piedmont, Alabama, or right there at Rome, close to Rome, Georgia, which is close to, from here to Piedmont, is about 80, 90 miles. So you're talking about a ton of woods from where I live at in Sylacauga, all the way up to Piedmont, Alabama, right on the Georgia-Alabama state line there, close to Rome and Cedartown. And then when you get on up in there, there's a ton of woods too around Rome and Cedartown. That's where Rebecca's from. She's a Georgia girl, so I call them Georgia mites. They might get mad at me when I call them that. Now, where that come in is I used to work at the marble quarries here in Sylacauga, and the company we were owned by was Georgia Marble Company, which is based out of Roswell, Georgia. They have mines there all around Tate, Georgia, Marble Hill, and LJ, and then they have a bunch down in South Georgia, around Sandersville, Deep Step. So I used to have to go visit some of those plants, and them old boys that worked over there, we called them Georgia mites. They get so mad at us, but they started calling us Alabama mites. So
that's the fun part about coworkers. I mean, you can pretty much get by with anything. Well, I know you've probably taken hundreds and hundreds of Bigfoot reports. since you started investigating. Now, I really didn't plan on this being a Dogman show, but we've had some stuff happen recently and some evidence shared with us recently in the past few months and then this week that kind of blew my mind a little bit. But how many Dogman reports have you taken approximately? Can you tell us about a couple, one or two of those if you have?
Well, there's two in particular, and one of them, and both of them come from the same area, from two different people that didn't even know it. The first one was that this guy contacted me. He'd seen the YouTube channel. He contacted me. We talked on the phone. And it's up there close to a little town called Lincoln, Alabama, which is on I-20. In fact, I work up there too. I work within 2 miles of where he had his sighting. That area is very populated and it's growing, but there's still a lot of woods around it, a lot of farmland, and there's a river there. But when he contacted me and I called and talked to him, basically, he went to spend the night with his girlfriend. He got up the next morning a little bit before daylight because he had to work that day, which was about 6 a.m. when he come out. It's already daylight. Where this little road comes out where his girlfriend and some other houses are. They're down on the river, and you got this long dirt road that comes back to the paved road. Where when he got to the paved road, straight across the road is a pasture. A little small pasture. I've been over and looked at the pasture. I haven't went and actually talked to the landowner. I just went down the paved road, stopped there where the guy told me what happened. There's one lone pine tree out there where he said this thing was standing. But when he got to the end of the driveway, fixing to turn on the pavement, he looked straight across and he said, probably a 6 or 7 foot tall thing on 2 legs that had a dog head. And it scared him half to death. He took on off. He said it was a brown color. He took off. When he got to work, he called his girlfriend, told her but to pay attention. But he said it, I mean, as far as it doing anything, he just stood still and watched it. He said it didn't move. He may have looked at it. He said maybe for 10 or 15 seconds, and he took off. He said he just sit chill bumps over him. I haven't talked to him but one more time since then because I've asked him, does he still go over there? And he said, of course. And he said, I can't never get my mind off that pine tree. He said, every time I get there, I'm looking at that pine tree.
And we talk all the time about, Amanda, I believe you said a visceral response, like your body, like, it's something you're not supposed to be looking at. And it just, right. And we get, and, Spencer, I think he always said the creepy feels, and we all have other names for it, but we all know what it feels like. And,
yes,
we may all have different names for it, but we all know what that feeling is.
Yeah. And if he would, and for example, if he would have pulled up and looked over and there'd been a black bear standing there, he wouldn't have had that response. His body would, right. Something known you don't. Now, I have, I remember the first time I saw a bald eagle here. They weren't supposed to be here. I remember the excitement. I remember the first mountain lion shocked me. We're not supposed to have them here, and I almost hit one in my Mustang one night. But it doesn't compare to some of these feelings that people, come to us and tell us about, or we've had ourselves. So, right. Wow.
Well, this guy hasn't seen anything since. So that's my actual first Dogman sighting report that I got to talk to somebody about. About 3, maybe. Well, that was in late summer. So yeah, about February, I was contacted by somebody else. So we're talking about 6-7 month time period. Had somebody else. In fact, we were during a live that night, and he was wanting me to talk to him. So I gave him my email. We started talking by email, and I asked him where he lived. And he went to explaining, and I said, Lord have mercy. I said, this guy is only a mile away from where that other sighting was.
Oh, really? Wow.
And I'm going like, okay, we got something going on here now. We got something happening here. So me and him really went to talking deeper. I've been up to his place 3 or 4 times. There's some very odd stuff up there. He's got a lot of pictures. Some pictures is hard to tell. Then there's some it's just right in your face what you're looking at. Plus, he's got a lot of paranormal going on with that place. It's just a ton of stuff going on that property there. And a lot of it's just hard to explain. I mean, I don't know what to really do with it.
Right.
And I told him that, I told him, I said, man, I don't really know what to tell you about all this stuff. So,
yeah,
because I'm learning it too. I'm still learning every day.
Well,
and,
when it happens to you is when you're aware of it. You know that people you trust and love have told stories, but when it happens to you, I don't know if you've told this story or not, and you may kick my tail next time you see me, but you remember you contacted me about because I've had paranormal stuff happen, and you saw that guy walking down the road and he disappeared in front of you.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and that kind of shook you up.
Yes, it did.
So when you see something that you don't have a explanation for, there you go again.
Right.
It's not supposed to happen. But
right.
But your area though, Mark, I mean, dang, every time we either go down that way or have a gathering that we're lucky enough to go to, or y'all do and we're not there, something. And it's not like, oh, it's anecdotal, like, oh, well, we saw this or heard that. We're getting stuff on audio, getting stuff on video and pictures, So it's a unique area. I'll just put it that way.
It definitely is. Just recently here, I'd say probably in the last 6 months or so total at the museum, there's been so many reports of people from Alabama come in, not necessarily new ones, but ones people are sharing stuff that has happened, and the areas there that you're describing, Mark, that's exactly what I'm hearing up here too in North Georgia. So definitely an interesting area for sure.
The secret's getting out.
It is, yeah. Alabama's I hate to use the word Alabama squatchy, I guess.
Yeah, well, I mean,
it is.
And
boogery.
There's things going on all the time, and I'll mention this. I talked to the guy that has been involved in this. I'll just say North Alabama. There was a neighborhood over 2 nights. There were several 911 calls just a few weeks ago. The deputies were going out there. The people were having rocks thrown up on top of their houses. One lady had pictures beaten off the wall from the outside. One guy shot at what he said was a booger, a grayish booger. I don't know whether, we don't have the details yet, whether the thing went crazy before or after the gunshot, but I have a feeling I know the answer to that. And there's a lot of people involved. The sheriff's department. Then you have the city officer that tells the county officers, hey, you need to contact this guy. He knows about this stuff. He contacts him. He talks to other people, and there are people inside the departments that are like, yeah, these people were freaked out, and they show up, and the whole, it's a loop road, neighborhood. You go in, loop, come back out the same way. Every light that's available on anything is on every house. So y'all, we're coming to a point to where with Mark and his friends that are doing the investigations, Amanda's taking reports. We're having these little shows and big shows that are talking about this. I guarantee you 30 years ago, they would have kept that under wraps. And they kind of are, because we got a little bit of inside information on it. And I don't know when it's going to hit, but it's being slowly investigated or whatever. But it's happening. And Mark, you're in an area, you know it's happening. And
yeah.
I've
It
seen
definitely feels
people.
like it's ramping up for sure.
Yeah.
That's a good observation, Mark. I'm gonna put this on your shoulders. Why do you think it's happening now?
Oh, well,
Oh, here we go, y'all. Go get some Snickers and some milk.
it's gonna be a lot of stuff that folks don't like, but
Yeah, no, but the
you
thing is, Mark, we're here to talk about this. We're
Right.
some of it's speculation, and some of it's from experience. So everybody's everybody's has opinions, but some people's opinions are based on things they know. So I'm gonna turn it over to you.
okay. Well, let me say a couple things before I jump off into that for a second
Okay.
to give it some background, maybe. First of all, Alabama is like number 3rd or 4th in timber in the United States. Maine, there's a couple more that's right above us. I can't remember who it is. So Alabama has a lot of timber. Mississippi is right there behind us. And of course, when you come into Alabama, you pretty much notice that.
Mhm.
If we have a lot of farmland, but we have a ton of timber. We have a ton of timber companies, paper mills, lots of timber. Number 2, they call Alabama America's Amazon because of the diversity of how many fish, crayfish, insects, flowers that are nowhere else pretty much in the world. You go look it up. There's a lot of biologists say this is a very diverse state, but we're losing a lot of it too to development and pollution, and it's sad to see that happening, but it's happening. Same thing has happened to Georgia. You go to Georgia, parts of Georgia is just disappearing left and right.
It
Tennessee
really is.
So, so with saying that, there's a lot of reports that go back in Alabama to the early 1900s. There was the Chilton County peach monster. It was investigated by that sheriff's department. They did cast footprints. They were in the courthouse of Chilton County for years. And if anybody's been on I-65 going south, you've probably seen the big peach water tower on side of 65. That's Clanton, Alabama. That's where the Chilton County courthouse is. Now, my understanding is they redone that courthouse a few years ago, and the cast disappeared. So I don't know if they're in storage or somebody chunked them, but there is newspaper reports from that period, which would have been late 50s, early 60s. Also, you had what they called the Chockalaka monster, which run around Anniston, White Plains, Alabama, which is all back in there toward National Forest. There's newspaper articles about it left and right. The sheriffs back in investigated it. They found tracks. There's a lot about it. And of course, Alabama has what we call the white thing, which is primarily more northern Alabama. But I'm getting to find out down in here too a little bit.
And I believe they have crossed our state line here, where we're in southern Middle Tennessee, and I have reports of also some white ones. But go ahead. I'm sorry. It's just
That's okay.
You're right.
Yeah, there's reports of white ones here in North Georgia as well.
Yeah.
So they're everywhere.
I think they are. All right. Since a lot of Alabama used to be cleared and farmed when all of it's been put back in timber. Then our deer population started really growing in the late 70s, early 80s, and it's booming. I think Alabama's number 3 or 4 population-wise of whitetail in the nation too. I think Texas and one other state's higher than us, and it's us and Mississippi running neck to neck. So I think, in some of my opinion, my stuff, I feel the population has grown because there's plenty of food, plenty of cover, and Alabama's full of water. They got the 3 things they need. Everywhere you go in Alabama, there's a creek, there's a pond, there's a lake, there's a river.
And
just about every holler got a creek in it.
and that's interesting. You know, when I was doing a little bit of research, it said Bankhead with 181,000 acres is also, they call it the land of 1,000 waterfalls.
Yeah.
So, and you're right. There are big lakes. There's some beautiful places in Alabama.
Oh, yeah.
It's I did not realize living this close until I met some people years ago, and I started spending time in Alabama and walking some of the trails, and I didn't realize how much area you guys had that was set aside, you know, for people to enjoy. But anyway, sorry to.
It's okay. So you combine all of that together, I could see where population could increase pretty good. The more food you have available, probably your birth rate goes up, I would think. Maybe wrong on that, but I've been raising cattle all my life and other animals, and if you take care of them and feed them right, and they usually do pretty good birthing animals. So I kind of look at it that way. Now, also, I start looking at it from a biblical side. I grew up in church. I accepted Christ years ago. Not perfect, but I try my best to do what I'm supposed to do. Reading the Bible, it talks about a lot of things that could happen toward the end of time. We've had an increase of UFOs. We've had an increase of the cryptids. We've had an increase of paranormal. I mean, every time you turn around, it's just like everything is booming. I think they are connected. I think all this stuff is off the same bird. It might be a different feather, but it's coming from the same bird. I know a lot of people disagree with that, and that's fine. It's like I tell people, if you disagree with me, that's good, because I'm going to still be your friend and still talk to you.
Amen.
I think we're going to see more of this coming, especially with development happening. And you was talking about what you was talking about a while ago. A lot of people that live in these subdivisions just don't realize what's living right there on top of them. These things live in town too. There's reports from Sylacauga, Alabama, downtown Sylacauga, 1978. The town of Childersburg, which is just north of me here, within a mile of downtown, one stealing cat food off a woman's back porch. Birmingham, Alabama. Yes, I went to Birmingham, Alabama, and worked a sighting in a subdivision on the edge of the Cahaba River. Probably one of the fanciest neighborhoods I've ever been in. They had gates. They even had a security guard for the subdivision. They hired a security guard because the boogers got so rough in there, they started killing the people's dogs and cats.
Oh, wow.
And me and Keith documented them boogers being there. They were coming up off that river late in the evenings. People were seeing them. They had the police department involved in it. They hired security guards. They had some of the security guards quit.
I didn't sign up for this.
I did not know what to tell the lady to do.
Right.
I mean, be honest with you, I didn't know what to tell her to do. Then they quit all of a sudden. It's just like they started, then they quit. I don't know if they
hear
moved
that a
on.
lot.
Yeah. So, but I was right there close to downtown. In fact, I'll just tell people it was close to 459. That's the wraparound around Birmingham. And if you know where the Cahaba River is on 459, you went right through where a bunch of boogers live at, or they used to. Of course, I'm not going to give the lady's subdivision name, but because there's a ton of subdivisions in there. But they were having all this going on. They didn't know what to do. But it finally quit. The last time I talked to this lady, they hadn't had anything happen in a long time. So, and I assume she still has my phone number, and I haven't heard from her. So I'm assuming it has stayed quiet. They've seen them right there around Anniston. Anniston's a pretty good sized city. I think 40, 50,000 people in the city limits of Anniston. And then all the little other towns right around it. They've had boogers right up in downtown, going to Jack's, getting stuff out of the dumpster. So, so they're coming to towns. I think towns do not bother them. I think they just learn to maneuver around them. And the guy that seen this one in Sylacauga in 1978, he was working at McDonald's. McDonald's just had come to Sylacauga. They just had opened. He was a senior in high school. He was working McDonald's. His boss asked him to work over that night to closing time, which was 12 o'clock. So he did. He called his parents because he didn't own a car at the time. And if we go back, a lot of folks in late 70s didn't own a car, especially kids. They had to go get a job and earn them, But he decided to walk home because he only lived about 4 blocks from where the McDonald's was. So he called his mom, told her, said, "Hey, I'll just walk home to keep you from having to get out." And back then, Sylacauga was, and still pretty much is, still a pretty safe town. So he was heading down through there, and he got to what we call Ogletree Plaza. And it used to be where our Walmart was located, and our grocery store and the movie house and all that was located. There's a big branch or big creek that comes right through the middle of town. And it comes right there and goes up under a parking lot and Walmart. And Walmart was there, or was right before Walmart. It may have been Grant's, what they called it then. But as he got close to where the creek crosses, and there was a service station, and right next to it was a Jack's on the other side of the branch. As he got real close to that, he started hearing what he could hear sound like rocks hitting rocks down in that creek. He got up to there to the bridge, looked over, and when he looked over, he had one of these things look up at him. Scared him to death. It didn't do nothing. He just looking at him. He took off running. And he kept looking behind him. It wasn't behind him. He said there was a little traffic coming through town. He gets home. He's out of breath. He carrying on. And he tells his mom and dad, "I just seen something back up yonder in the creek." Well, his dad said, "Well, come on, jump in the car. We're going to ride back up there." He said, "I don't know if I want to go back up there." But they went on, and they parked across the road, and his dad walked over there, and there wasn't nothing there. Of course, when he came over, he said you could tell where big rocks had been turned over and stuff. So I feel like the booger was looking for crawfish or something in the creek to eat.
Yes.
Of course, when I received the report was like 2012. So you're talking a long span of time there. Of course, when he told me there was a Jack's restaurant right next to that, I went to thinking about that, and I said, there's probably a dumpster behind Jack's right there. And back then, they didn't lock the dumpsters. And I was thinking, I wonder if that booger was waiting on Jack's to close. And he's just getting him something out of the creek till they closed. And then he was slipping up that bank, getting into that dumpster. Of course, I went in 2012, walked to the spot. And if you stand at the top of the bank down to the water is about 10 foot. This is how deep that creek is coming through there. And he said it did look up at him, but he did say he was thinking it was about 8 foot tall when he thought back about it. And of course, Jack's ain't right there in that location no more. So there's a used car lot there now. But I did walk around the edge, and I could see possibly a old trail there where something had went up that bank, because it was rocky and nothing was growing in that little spot. Now, it could have been where water is pouring off the parking lot into there, and it's kept a little ditch washed out. I mean, it's hard to say on that one, but you could tell where something may have been a trail there at one time, or erosion has happened, one of the two. But or something caused that erosion. you know, because you go to making a mark in ground and water starts running that way, of course, it's going to make something bigger. So that's just some different things that's went on. I mean, we could go to 7 o'clock in the morning real easy.
Well, you know, I'm sitting here thinking, you know how I am. I'm thinking like when you mentioned the dumpster, what in town, and you know, you have people be like, what, in boogers in town? Well, one of the biggest bucks I ever saw was behind our Dairy Queen, and he had a Blizzard cup stuck on his nose, and he couldn't get it. So sugar and other food that animals don't normally get will make them show themselves. I mean, which they're still careful if it has a little more intelligence, like you said, hiding. That and how many times I walked up on a black bear, trying to get into a dumpster one time in Gatlinburg, and so and we've heard reports of dumpsters being raided by boogers all over the country. So, um,
I mean, it's a free dinner, so you know you don't have to go hunt
right
for it or fight for it or anything. Just open
there
the
it
lid
is.
and eat.
Yep.
So why
Yep.
not?
And Mark had said something. God, I don't remember if we were talking in person or so in South Alabama, being close to Florida. Did you say, was it you that said that there've been reports of some skunk apish looking Bigfoot in the far South Alabama? Was that you?
Yeah, well, there's probably been some other people brought that up too, but you get down toward like Conecuh and Scumbia and all down in that way, it seems like some of the reports come from down that way are more like a skunk ape looking type booger, is what I've heard. Now, I have never, you know, some people, me and Mr. Tao, wonder a lot of times if that one I seen in Lowndes County was more of that type too, because I was on the Alabama River, kind of where I done got into the coastal plain of Alabama. Lowndes County is about an hour and a half, maybe an hour and 45 minutes from here where I was hunting. And that place is real sandy. It's more flatter, a lot of swampland, a lot of palmettos. You know, it's a different type of terrain than where I live up here. So you hear more of that from down in there, and I imagine some of these guys that's on here like Ken and Flat Rock, and some of them probably hear a lot more of that than I do, because I hear more stuff this way, especially on this eastern side of the state, going back up the Appalachians there toward Georgia. You know, I hear a lot more. But I have heard of a lot of stuff. You know, Kumbo talked a good bit about Troy, Alabama. In fact, he was talking about a dumpster down there too. I think at a McDonald's there in downtown Troy. Some were visiting a dumpster there. And there was somebody, I can't remember who it was, talking about it at a casino somewhere.
Oklahoma.
And some of them had come back from a Bigfoot trip or something and pulled over because they had car trouble and witnessed a booger running across the parking lot. And then I think they got to talking to somebody and come to find out they were visiting the dumpsters, you know, back of the casino. And they don't tell them what that casino got on tape if they'd share it, you know.
Right.
But
and
of course, they probably don't want to advertise they got boogers coming up to the casino. That'd probably lose a lot of business. But
and you know,
so you either lose it or gain, one or the other.
And animals migrate and move and change areas for different reasons over time.
Yeah.
You know, we had there was no such thing as fire ants here in the late 70s. Then there were fire ants. There were no such thing as armadillos. And then the fire ants got here. The armadillos followed them. And then the eastern cougar followed both of those here in Tennessee. And now they're here and they've got population, and some of them are getting bigger. One of them got ran over here on I-65, and my buddy's dad, they went and got the carcass and they weighed it. It was a male. It's 222 pounds. Wow. So the first one I ever saw was probably in about the 60 to 70 pound range, and it blew my mind. But what I'm saying is, you know, these animals don't know where the state lines are. You know, we know because there are signs, right? So if they're being pushed because of pressure, people building and clearing land in, let's say, North Florida or whatever, and then that's a natural progression. It's for people too. So it doesn't surprise me at all that some areas like just like the nice neighborhood that you were talking about. Maybe they got pushed out of an area and they were in between finding a place, and maybe they were trying to claim that place, but and moved on. You know, that's all speculation, throwing stuff against the wall. But if you look at it, if you sit back and look at it, sometimes you can make it make sense. You know, but I'm gonna tell you, you seeing a Dogman on while you're on your tractor, I can't think of anything that makes right now. The little that I know, I'm sure we'll find out in time, but I think that's another level of scary for some people, because we've seen the boogers. We've talked to people that live around them. We don't know too many people that's been hurt by them. You know, they've been bluff charged or scared or whatever. If you leave them alone, basically, they pretty much will leave you alone, but they're still individuals. So you could have that random one. But with the Dogman, every time somebody says Dogman, and when you're telling that story and talking about the interviews that you've done, taking the reports, the thing that pops up in my mind is, Amanda might be too young for this, but the American Werewolf in London.
No, I remember that.
When that transformation, the special effects and that transformation, Roger's not saying that they're werewolves. I'm just saying that's the image I get in my head, something that scared me as a youngster. And I don't know if I want to find out, but it
definitely is a reality change. You listen to people that tells you they've seen them, and you know they have. And you hear these reports from other places, and you know these people are being truthful. But when you put your eyes on one, it's just like I can sit here and tell somebody about a booger all day long, but till they put their eyes on one,
right,
it's a whole different ball game.
Yes, sir.
And I've carried people before with me that wanted to see a booger, and I'm telling them, you probably really don't really want to see one.
Yeah.
Once they had that experience, some of them wouldn't go back to the woods. I'm not kidding you. That done it in for them right there. They didn't have nothing else to do with it no more. A lot of them thought it was going to be fun, and we was going to have a big time, and then we started having stuff happening, rocks getting thrown, screaming happening, bushes getting rattled, and then these folks were ready to get in the vehicle and leave. So, but then when you see this Dogman looking thing, even though you've had tons of people tell you about them, it's like, well, I've went to a different grade now. I've went a grade higher, in reality, that it's just not boogers. It's them too. Even though I knew these people were telling me the truth. I mean, it's just like Jessica Jones. When we had that little camp out there in June in Hollands, and she leaves, gets over to the county road, off the dirt road, and gets on the county road and sees two looking, what did she describe as a hyena bear looking dog, two of them. And one of them shows its teeth to her. And I mean, the next morning she's blowing my phone up going, talking to me about it. And I let her know. I said, well, right there where you seen them. She tells me where she's seen them. I said, I got a friend that lives right there that's had booger activity for years right there. And so I heard that from her, knowing what he's told me, because they had cows go missing all the time, calves, not cows, but calves. They would, during the birthing season, they lost 9 calves one spring and never could find none of the calves. And there's booger report after booger report over there.
Can I ask you a question real quick? It's made me think of something. Do you notice that you get any, like, what's the word I'm looking for? That you get more booger reports or get more booger activity during calving season that you've noticed?
I would say you get a lot of reports in fall and spring, and most calves are being born late winter, early spring. So yes, I would say that does up kick a little bit. Also, you hear of a lot more like people with yard chickens, the chickens going missing. Sometimes you seem like you hear an upkick in dogs and cats going missing at times. We had that happen over here in our neighborhood. Now, this was during a time that, even though I've seen what I've seen here, I got neighbors that's seen stuff too. That can, one of them got a good full blown look better than anybody else. And I hate it. This lady passed away a few weeks ago, but she lived over here about a half a mile through the woods from me, a little further. And she watched what she thought was a big dog come out of the wood line into her yard at nighttime. She had a street light out there. It went through the edge of her street light. She thought it was a big old dog. She went to calling it. She said, "Hey, Poochie, Poochie, come here." Well, Poochie, Poochie. it still tickles me the way that woman told me, bless her heart. But I couldn't help but tickle when she said that. But then it stood up on two legs and turned and looked at her. And then she like fainted and had a heart attack. Her emphasis on that thing was its face. I mean, every time she said, I know she said it 20 times, the face. I said, "What are you talking about, the face?" She said, "It looked like a skeleton looking at me." She said, "It was grayish white." And she said, "All I could see was two big black looking blobs sitting there." And she said, "It was funny looking." I mean, it scared this lady half to death. And then another neighbor had chickens going missing, and we went to look at that and see, because they thought it was coons or possums. And her husband had built them a gigantic, nice chicken coop. He was a carpenter by trade, so he put some time and money into a very nice chicken coop. But they were missing chickens, and they couldn't find the chickens. And they called me and Rebecca to come over there to look. So he's thinking raccoon, possum, something getting in there. I walked behind the chicken coop, and there's a big hole about this big up here, about 6-7 foot, just as round as it could be, just perfect. And right there on the ground, you could tell something had stood there and patted the ground down real good. And I'm thinking, ain't no coon done this. Ain't no possum done this. Ain't no fox they'd have to climb up there and then take one hand to work all that wire out. And this was heavy duty wire. This was hardware cloth that is very hard to deal with. If y'all know what I'm talking about, hardware cloth, it's about a 1/2 inch by 1/2 inch. It's real strong. Something made this beautiful hole just like this. And while I'm looking at that, Rebecca is calling me, said, "Hey, come here." They have a little garden spot out there, maybe a 20 by 20 spot. She said, "I think here's a track in this garden spot." I walk over there, and right in the corner, heading toward that chicken coop, I mean, that footprint is heading right toward it, is about a 9-inch footprint. That's not big, but it's barefooted, and it's heading right toward that chicken coop. And I'm going, and then you take what that lady had to say, and then what another couple that lives over this way behind me about a mile, what all they were experiencing, and then what me and Rebecca had started having to happen here over the years, since I'm going to say 2020, when it kind of started happening. But we moved here in 2019, and I'm still 2.5 miles from Creepy Mountain. So, I mean, all this just started, coming together. And then I got glimpses out here a couple of different times. One day I got a glimpse of something in the wood line that was white looking, tall. It went into the bushes. I got Rebecca's attention. She came out, and you could see the limb of a tree over in that wood line just doing this number. I mean, that thing was doing just like it, but you couldn't tell. But she seen the limb. And then one day right down here, I was putting feeder putting my corn feeder up for deer season, I had my back to the wood line, and when I turned around, I got a glimpse of something big and black jumping behind the hedge bush. So, you know, I knew I had stuff happening here. And then, of course, all the little footprints we were finding around the pond. We found little bitty footprints about this, you know, maybe 4 inches, 5 inches long on the edge of our pond in January when it was like 30 degrees, you know. Ain't no child out there walking around barefooted 30 degrees, you know, with ice at the edge of the pond.
And what's interesting too, you know, y'all finding the tracks, you know, you've told me, I think you told us several people, but like finding the tracks in the cornfield. Now, if you're in the woods and you're finding tracks where there are trees where something can grab and swing over and change its direction or step on a rock or whatever, but you're in a cornfield and the trackway just stops.
Just disappears.
Just stops way away from the, not, you know, far enough away that it couldn't jump into the woods line or the field. You know, that's, even though we're talking about Bigfoot, that's not normal for anything.
No,
so
it's not.
It adds another layer of mystery of like, how does that happen? The video that I watched, y'all were showing the tree structures and the, you know, we've got Kane Michael coming on next week, and he studies a lot of that, and he documents, and he's figured out some things. But it's still, how did that happen? Because a lot of these logs are too big for a human or 2 humans to move. They're too intricate, the designs, and it's not natural, because you can, you know, you can use your imagination, and you can take, okay, how would I build this? And it has to be, a lot of it, yes, they are natural occurrences, but a lot of these things are built. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. People, oh, they'll laugh at it. Oh, that's not anything. I know. You go look at the evidence. Don't even think Bigfoot. Something built this. And then you go, what did it? Yep, human could. Absolutely. I remember one time thinking, what could be doing this? So I found it was a Facebook camping page, and what they did, they would go out and camp in places and build their little structures and put the natural foliage around it and all that. They've got some pretty amazing structures, but every one of them that I saw, Mark, was one person could build it or 2 people could build it. It wasn't like some of these trees that we see picked up at an unreal height and slid down in between. Just that, I'm on my bucket right now, but it irritates me a little bit. I love questions. I love people asking questions. But when you look at something and you break it down just as for the evidence, and you know something built it. Now the question is, what built it? There's only very few things on the planet that can do that. So
the $50 million question.
Yeah, right. So it's like, are you not
whatever
looking at the
built
same
it
thing
more
we're
like
looking
they
at?
had hanging, so
Yeah, it's got
Opposable
exactly
thumbs.
right. Absolutely.
I mean, we know beavers can build beaver huts in a dam, but they're dragging the logs for their mouth.
Mm-hmm.
We know bears can do a few things. We know some other animals that can do some things. You know, coon can use its front paws to do a lot. I mean, they can figure out how to unlock a lock and stuff. But when you know, it's like Creepy Mountain. It's full of all kind of signs and tree bows and X's, and some of these X's are huge. I mean, they're. I mean, when you're talking about a pine tree 20 foot long, and they're in a perfect, and there's 2 of them right next to each other, just perfect. And you go over and put your hand on that tree, and you're going like, man, there's no way a human can stand those up like that. And you get to looking, because you're looking for the stump, because you're thinking in your brain, okay, they broke off, the wind somehow made that happen. But when you get to looking, there's no stump nowhere.
Right.
Like they were brought in and set there.
And there's no
right. And then you start finding all these tree bows that are pointing in the same direction. They're not they're not one this way. They're all laid just as pretty one way. You're going like, something did this. That
Mhm.
I know nature does a lot of things, but this is too in your face. This is like it's pointing at a direction, and they're all bowed that way. Or if you walking through the woods and we find what I call a tall man trail, and a lot of other people call them a tall boy trail. Is you'll find a trail and you'll look down that thing. It's just like somebody went down through there with a machete, 7, 8 foot, 10 foot, and just cleared it out where they could walk. But you got a path there. But you're knowing nobody's hunting right there. And this trail goes into a god awful place that you wouldn't hunt. It goes down in a deep rocky holler, or it goes into somewhere that 99% of your hunters are not going to go. I mean, it's like Creepy Mountain. There's places up there. I've hunted that place pretty much all my life. There's still some spots I have never walked in up there, and I probably won't go into just because where they're at. Very deep holler full of rocks and mountain laurel. I walked in the edge of it before, and the whole time I was in it, I was getting creeped out. I had to get out of there. And this was even before I had a feeling that Bigfoot existed. This was before I had my first sighting. There's some places on the club that creeped me out before then. Mm-hmm. And of course, me being a coon hunter or ex-coon hunter, I don't coon hunt anymore, but I used to stay in the woods at night, and I've heard crazy things at night. And I've smelt, but it was 2007 before I laid my eyes on something,
Yeah.
And I mean, I've been in the woods at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, have to walk up a holler 3 or 4 miles from the truck to get to dogs. And yes, we've experienced some things, but back then we didn't really know what we were experiencing. We just knew something was going on. We knew dogs didn't want to hunt. We'd get smell sometimes. We'd be like, what in the devil is that smell? Yep. Or we'd hear vocals, knowing it's not coyotes or anything else. But at the time, Bigfoot was not on my brain at that time. And then in 2007, I had a reality check. So,
yeah.
And, really went to jumping into this subject and, got to talking to people and started listening to podcasts. Well, back then they didn't have podcasts. They had more like chats. A lot of the websites would have a chat. And I started, learning what their sounds were, stuff they were doing. And I'm going like, Lord of mercy, I've been around this stuff all my life and I didn't even realize.
Yeah. And that's when it scares you, when you go back and think, because there was things we did as a kid, like, people in Alabama are well aware of what wind damage looks like with trees. Right. We had some ice storms that I saw how trees react and whatever to different pressures, and you learn this over time, and then all of a sudden you see a Bigfoot, and then you start learning about it, and you're like, oh no. Remember when we were on the creek down there, we were frog gigging, and these memories come back. Mm-hmm. And I said something to Mark. I was watching that video, and those bent trees. Yes, it can happen naturally. I saw some of the softer trees with the ice load bend like that, but they didn't hook under anything, right? And in South Alabama, you're not having ice storms, I don't think, pretty regular, are you? So.
No, they probably don't down in there. We used to have them here, and we used to get snows pretty regular, but a lot of those trees would stand right back up as soon as the ice or the snow came off of it.
If they didn't break, they didn't
break.
Yep.
But when you go to an area and you've got all these big, huge trees, and then all the saplings in there are just bent everywhere, and they're hooked in the vines, and some of them are just drove in the ground, like something just drove it. And you're going like, that don't make no sense.
How did that happen? Right. Now, I said something backstage to Mark, talking about memories. I saw these trees, and I'm thinking, man, it'd have to be a 12-foot, 15-foot individual to accomplish that. And then it hit me of something we used to do as kids. some of you've probably heard this before, but we used to climb up the saplings, and we would call it riding them down, and bend them over, and it ease you down. Sometimes they'd break and you'd bust your tail, but I got to thinking, what if it's a group effort? What if the little ones run up and ride those things over, and then, like I said, the speculation or whatever, but you're trying to think, how could this be possible? So one thing was like, well, every Bigfoot's probably not 12 to 15 foot. And then it hit me that we used to do that as kids, right? So not saying don't go say Roger Williams said that for a fact that's happening. I'm not. It's just when you look at evidence and you scratch your head a little bit, like,
it's a good theory,
possible? So and then, with people like Kane Michael, for example, and you start documenting, paying attention to what level on the hill they are, I started looking at this stuff a little different as warning signs. No, I'm not going to do that. I barely can make it to the kitchen. So when you see these now, and you have friends, Mark, Kane and some of his work, you start looking at them a little different. Well, are these markers? Are these pointing towards water? Are they, telling you there's danger here, possibly during hunting season? Don't go this way. It makes you pay attention a little more to where they are. And like you said, you already picked up on it. All of them are yours, and your area was pointed the same way. Now you're like, okay, why? Right. What do they mean? We may not ever figure it out, but we're never going to figure it out if we don't try. So now, true. Patrick, I don't think I've heard this. Patrick asked you to tell the melon story. Do you know what he's talking about?
Yeah, I know what he's talking about. All right. Well, let me go. My research partner, Keith Tyler, and I need to get him online one day. He's hard to get. He's not real big about being on YouTube. But me and him and a couple of others were really keeping Creepy Mountain. I mean, we were staying up there on a regular basis. We were doing some baiting. We were sitting up there a lot at nighttime. We was catching a lot of stuff. Getting into fall hunting season, I want to say this was maybe 2009, 10. I done a report on it. It's hard to find that report now because it was on AlabamaBigfoot.com that really don't exist anymore. When the late Mike Mullane passed away, his family shut down that website. But if you go into deep internet, sometimes you can still find some of that stuff. And Spencer's went and found some of it. Some other people have found a few of the reports. My lost a lot of my material in 2013 when I divorced. I should have had downloaded all that stuff. Not saying my ex-wife done it. We don't know what happened. She couldn't find it either. But I lost a lot of my reports and a lot of my pictures from that time period. But some of it is still out there through other people. But that year, Keith had went up to a green patch on the hunting club, the bow hunting. It was bow season. Bow season always comes in October 15th in Alabama. So this would have been after the 15th. He went to what we call, used to be called number 5 field, number 5, excuse me. Number 4 field holds a big significance at the hunting club too, about boogers. But he went to this field on the afternoon, was sitting in the shooting house. A couple of does came out in the field. He decided to harvest one of them. When he let go of his arrow, of course, he harvested the deer. Well, as soon as the deer hit the ground, I'm trying not to be graphic for folks, but as soon as the deer hit the ground, all this hollering and screaming started happening around him. He said it was like being at the Birmingham Zoo. If you've ever been to Birmingham, Atlanta Zoo would probably be the same way, or any zoo. if you go over, we used to have what they call Monkey Island, and
Been there.
they get stirred up. You would think you was in the jungle somewhere. Well, he said this is kind of what was going on. He said this was screaming, hollering, carrying on, scared him half to death. He comes out of the shooting house and takes off to his truck. Gets to his truck. He gets to thinking about it. He said, well, I got a shotgun in the truck with me. He said, I'm going back down there, but he drove to the field, gets back down there, the deer is still laying there. So he loads the deer up, comes on home, scared to death, calls and tells me what went on. While he's talking to me, he said, well, when I get through dressing this deer out, I'm going to carry some of the remains back to that area and give to him. He said, to see what happens. I said, okay. A couple of days later, I think it was 2 days later, he calls me. It's about 4 in the evening. He said, are you at home? I said, yeah. He said, can you get up here to number 5 field real quick? There's something I want to show you. I said, okay. All right. So, of course, it takes 20, 30 minutes to get there, because once you get up on them roads on the hunting club, you can't go real fast because it's rocky and rough. Pull up beside his truck, get out, start walking down there. And he said, I want to show you. He said, this is where I put the deer remains at. But he said, I want to show you what they left. And he said, you ain't going to believe it. I said, okay. I walked up, and there's a watermelon laying there. Wow. I said, a watermelon? He said, does that look like one of your watermelons that you grew this summer? I said, yeah, it does. Because I grew what they call tender sweet watermelons. It's a yellow meated. And I mean, it looked just like it. Well, that summer, I had watermelons going missing. And you can tell, and I done had it happen this year since I seen that thing out there. You can tell where a watermelon has sit in the field. Yeah. You know, it leaves an impression. And I had noticed during the summer that some of my watermelons had disappeared. Now, I was thinking kids in the neighborhood maybe, or somebody coming there at night and got them a few watermelons. That was it. I'm looking at this watermelon, and I'm going, how long did I said, there's no way this watermelon could have lasted from August till almost the 1st of November. Anyway, we get the watermelon. I cut it open. The watermelon's still half decent. It's still a pretty good watermelon. That kind of surprised me. So he said, they left that. And he said, I think it come out of your field. I said, well, it kind of seems like it did. A few days later, I was talking to my dad, and I asked my dad a question. I said, how long do you think a watermelon would last, Dad? You know, like if you pulled it in August, how long do you think it would last? He said, well, son, he said, when we was growing up farming, we'd take them and slide them under the bed on a hardwood floor where it stayed dark. And he said, we'd eat watermelon at Thanksgiving and Christmas off in fields. I said, for real? He said, yes. Yeah. He said, as long as you put it in a dark place where there's no moisture to get to it, said they won't rot. So I'm going, huh. So up there on that club, there's a lot of caves, a lot of pine straw. So, you know, and you can rake this pine straw back in the winter and you'll find insects, you'll find mushrooms, grubs, all kind of stuff growing on that stuff. So I'm sitting here thinking, I said, you know, still not believing, but nobody else in that area grew that type of watermelon. I went to ask some of the other guys too, what kind of watermelons they were growing. Nobody was growing that type. So I'm pretty sure, I mean, I can't say 100%, but I think that was one of my watermelons. Well, a few years ago, me and Rebecca decided to do an experiment with one of those watermelons. One of those years I grew some watermelons. So I saved old big one. I mean, it was probably a good 70, 80 pound watermelon. I saved it that
Lord.
year. Put it up under the kitchen table.
You make Rebecca pick it up. All that over yonder.
That thing sit in that house. Now, of course, we had air conditioning. And of course, you know, wintertime, I had the heat on. That watermelon sat up under that kitchen table till the next May.
What?
And me and her even done a
Wow.
video on it. Now, of course, when I cut that watermelon open, I probably wouldn't have ate it. It looked kind of rough looking inside. It done got that slimy look inside.
Watermelon
But there
wine.
was no rotten out on either side of that. It was still hard as a rock. But just when I cut it open, the inside had done got kind of rough looking.
Yeah.
I even saved the seeds out of that watermelon. I've grown watermelons off that, you know, off that one. But so I learned then, according to what my dad said, and then what the experiment we done, that if they're in the right condition, of course I wouldn't eat it, but something in the woods probably still would
Right.
eat it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That thing could almost last a year. I mean, that blew my mind.
That
And
is
that's
crazy.
not,
I've never heard of that.
yeah. So
Me neither.
I think there is a video. I think she done it on Facebook. This was before we had a YouTube channel when we done this. I think she done a Facebook, and of course she got her Facebook messed up a few years ago, so I don't even know if that's out there. But she filmed me cutting that open and looking at it, and I showed people. I said, "This watermelon was from last year, you know," and it's just crazy. So I can see where something that has a lot of intelligence could pull stuff like that, and if they had a good dry place to store it that's dark, I could see where that stuff could last a while.
Yeah.
And so that's about the watermelon. It's still, I scratch my head about that. But
Well, it's a form of it's a like a sign of appreciation, but it could be a form of communication also. Like,
Mhm.
hey, here's your watermelon back, buddy. You know what I mean? And it now was it Kumbo I think I was talking to that said they like certain organs of the deer, I guess because of the minerals, and you know that's a whole nother conversation. We'll get into that sometime. But I have you ever tried to gift other food or
yeah,
food to them?
me and Keith through Mr. Tao, we started gifting peanut butter Oreo cookies, peanut butter jelly sandwiches, crackers. Done some deer meat, done watermelons from the summer, of course. But we had our best. We had our best luck with taking a peanut butter jar. And why we done this was we were putting them low, and we think coons and deer and other stuff were getting into them. So we changed our tactics up a little bit. We brought a step ladder back with us, and we got up on higher up in the tree, and I took a gutter nail, and y'all know it's about 10 inches long.
Mm.
And I left the cap on the peanut butter, and I drove that gutter nail all the way through that jar into that tree, at least 2 inches deep. Okay, we done that. We come back. The peanut butter jar and the gutter nail was gone. Couldn't find them. What amazed me was when I got to looking at, I climbed up the step ladder and looked right in that hole. That hole was not worked out. If it me or you or any other human went up there, we got to work that nail. You know what I'm talking about?
Mhm.
You got to make
Yeah.
it where this here looked like it was pulled straight out, just like that. You know,
It's
it had
crazy.
whatever pulled it had enough strength to pull that strike, you know, pull that nail at least 2 inches back out of that tree. And I
Was
even
there enough of the nail there to be able to like
Yes.
put our hand around it, or was you'd had to move the jar first?
that I don't know. I mean, that jar was a standard jar, whatever, you know,
Mhm.
that size is, what, 2.5 inches diameter, maybe 3 at the most. So I'm not sure if it just grabbed it all and snatched it out, or if it took the jar off and then snatch the nail out with it. Now,
Either way, there was definitely enough there for something to hold on to and
Yeah.
snatch it out.
And it's like
That's crazy.
I would have to have a claw hammer.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I could do it then with just a claw hammer. You know what I mean? Just a regular size.
It's
We
like
done
Mark
that.
said, you'd have to wiggle it to get it out.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking in my head how I would do that. You know, you pull it straight out would be
getting the grip
an
on it
intense
would
amount
be,
of strength.
right.
And that told us then they had a lot of strength. We done that I don't know how many times. Only one time I ever found a gutter nail, one of them, and that was about 10 foot from the tree. It was clean as a whistle. Never found none of the jars. I mean, we made some big radius searches. I mean, we'd spread out a pretty good piece. Never find the jars. We done that for a while. Then we switched over to Oreo cookies because we'd heard they like Oreo cookies. So we're gonna try Oreo cookies. So,
We need a blizzard from Dairy Queen. See how
yeah, there you go.
the
Oreo
Oreo blizzard.
go get one here in a minute.
Right.
You know, me and Rebecca, that's our thing on Friday nights, ice cream. But
Oh, man.
going back to what you said about bending over limbs. So me and Keith got the bright idea. We said, well, here's what we're going to do this time. We're going to find some young saplings right in the area that we were feeding. And we took and filled up a Ziploc bag. And y'all going to think this is crazy here in a minute. You're fixing to hear something that's crazy. We put the Oreos Ziploc that bag. Y'all know what I'm talking about. You got to get them together. All right. Put a string around it. Kind of tied it. We went in there and we found about a 10-foot tall sapling that, about this big around. Kind of doing like you was talking about. We just both got a hand, started bending it over. And we tied that bag on top of that tree with about that much string. And we lit that tree back up. Of course, that bag all went up there 10 foot high, hanging up there. Done that one reason, hoping a coon or something couldn't get to it,
Right.
We came back a few days later, walked up, there's the bag laying on the ground. No cookies in it. Now, some crumbling stuff, you can see with some crumbling. When I picked up the bag, and Keith can tell you the same thing if he's sitting here, that bag was not tore. I'm talking about not tore anywhere. This bag, you could tell, had been opened just like we would open it.
Was the bag resealed that you remember?
One time he did that too. I'm not kidding you.
Wow.
This one was open. The string was broke. It was not tore. You could tell something done that right there probably because it had the fringes on it. And the string wasn't even around the bag no more. It was laying on the ground too. I told Keith, I said, there's no way. I said, this is somebody playing a trick on us. He said, no, it can't be, Mark. He said, because they've already taken the peanut butter. They're taking the nails. He said, it's them doing it. There's no way around it. So we done that a few times. And then finally, like Amanda just said, we got one back that was sealed back. And all this stuff went to Mr. Tao. We would mail this stuff to him because he was trying to get fingerprints off the bags, and he got some fingerprints and stuff off of them because we were real careful when we'd go back. We tried to be very careful not to get all our stuff on it, and we mailed a lot of this stuff to him, and done that way with peanut butter jelly sandwiches. They would take them out. We would get the little crackers, the little peanut butter crackers in the package. They would get them. Then they started giving us back stuff. Usually there was one tree that we put a lot of stuff on, and we would find stuff at the base of that tree. Like a lot of times we'd come back and there'd be pretty rocks there, pretty quartz rocks or a pretty red rock. We got a lot of red rock in our area. It'd be a real pretty one. And of course we got marble, a lot of marble here. So sometimes it looked like a piece of marble, a dirty piece of marble. Sometimes come back and there'd be a pile of hickory nuts laying there. or a pile of some kind of other nuts, like water oaks or something. Come back one time, we had flowers. I'm not kidding you. We had flowers laying there. That's when they went and started kidding me that I had a Bigfoot girlfriend up there. But
don't you love your friends?
yeah, I took some ribbon on that for a little while. I'm not kidding you though. There was some wildflowers left at the base of that tree. Bones. We found some. They had left some little animal bones there before.
What was that?
That's an owl cutting up behind me.
Okay.
Yeah, I heard that real loud too.
Yeah, I was like, what in the world?
That's unusual. I don't ever hear them that way though. Most of them back over here.
I can hear it good through the headphones.
Yeah, I've been waiting on something to start happening. It's real quiet out here, to be honest with you, real quiet. But just crazy things like that.
Now,
and we've done that for a little while. Go ahead.
Was that the same area or nearby where you had the camera set up that day you were doing something and there was something black and then it was gone? You remember was it a video or pictures you went over? Was it close to that area?
Pretty close, probably within a mile of it.
So
close.
So if you're out there doing this, I know animals, their sense of smell is incredible. But also you start a pattern. Okay, this is the gifting tree, right? And you don't call it that, but they know it. But you also know they know when you're in the woods. It's kind of unsettling to think that they might be in a high position watching you bring in the peanut butter or the bags, or even that day you had your back turned towards this black figure looking thing. And was it game trail camera taking pictures? It was there and then it wasn't. I can't remember.
Yeah, it was an Edge, Moultrie Edge, the cell type camera. It's got the, it sends it automatically to your phone. And it was catching that right there. Yeah, that kind of freaked me out. It was that close. I carried Wendell up there to look at it. Carried my other buddy that hunts with me a lot. That's still skeptical, even though he's been with us when a lot of stuff went crazy. But I guess he's going to need to be one of them that sees it face to face to get
right.
Say,
I heard a great non-believer story this week, and I'm not going to mention who it was. I'll let him tell the story, but it was a brother-in-law that didn't believe at all, thought they were crazy, and said, hey, I need to talk to you. About what? Well, carrying the trash down to the end of the road, like Maggie said earlier, he had some stuff happen and he'd seen some stuff and he had growling, and finally it goes from like, y'all are crazy to, are these things going to hurt me? Asking advice. So those are the, and most of those people won't come out and, on a show and tell you, but it's funny to us. But I have seen people close to me go through that transition of maybe not seeing it, but like you said, having such crazy stuff happen when the rocks go to coming through the woods and other things. Right. It's like, I know my son, he's had everything happen to him except a for sure sighting. He's had 2 glimpses of something very fast and very big, but he can't say for 100% that it was a booger or Bigfoot. But for him, to see how he's reacted, and now we've had things happen to where he said, Daddy, it don't really scare me anymore now that I know a little bit about it. But anyway, all right, I'm gonna be quiet. Jerry's getting on to me.
I'll tell you now. Let me tell you a couple of funny things that happened about people transitioning from not believing to believing. So, had a guy that I was working with, and he lives in Shiloh, up around Shiloh, Tennessee. He was working down here, And on a lot of his off days, he'd go back home to Tennessee. Now, he was a paranormal researcher. He'd been in Shiloh many, many times, seen a lot of crazy stuff in Shiloh. And he come to find out through work, if, some people told him, I researched Bigfoot. So he slips up to me one night at work, and he goes talking to me about it. And he told me he'd seen some strange things there at Shiloh and some other places, but he went to ask me about Bigfoot, and I said, well, if you'd like to go sometime, I'll carry you up on Creepy Mountain. We'll go up there. And he said, well, I'd love to. So he said, next go around, when I come back to work, the next day I won't go home. I'll stay here, and we'll go up on the mountain. I said, good deal. Now, this is when I was living on the south side of the mountain, and this is where they were coming to the house over there pretty regular too. We met, he come to my house, and we left my home, I don't know, maybe a good hour and a half before dark. We drove up to what we call our sign-in board, and we've had a lot of stuff happen there too. Well, I get a phone call from my first wife, and she needed me to come back home for a few minutes. Of course, I live from that spot about a mile and a half by the road. So I told him, I said, hey, I've got to run back home. I'll be back in a few minutes. Just stay right here. I told him he could go with me. He said, no, I said, well, just stay right here. When I get back, we'll go around the club. Well, I'd been gone maybe 15 minutes. I just had pulled up at the house, took care of what I needed to take care of, got back in the truck when my phone rings. It's him. Hey, man, where you at? I said, well, I'm on the way, but hurry up, man, get up here, please, man. He said, and it done got kind of dusky dark in, man, get back up here. I said, what's going on? He said, man, something just hit your sign-in board. He said, it sounded like a truck hit it. That's what you mean. He said, man, something hit it. He said, I'm sitting right beside it. He said, I done moved from it. He said, it rocked it when it hit it. So I said, well, I'm on the way, man. I said, I got to come up that rough mountain hill to get to you, but I'll be up there in just a minute. Just stay in your truck. I'll be there in just a minute. He said, don't worry, I got my gun, everything. So I could tell by his voice, man, he done got excited, So I pulled up, and he's sitting in the middle as much as you could get in the middle from the woods. He got his lights on bright. He even got his reverse lights on because, he's got the whole perimeter lit up good. And I pull up. He said, man, I'm not kidding you. He said, something hit that sign-in board a while ago. And we don't have that sign-in board no more. We got it over at the clubhouse, but this used to just be a big wooden thing that had a roof on it and it had a map in there. And so we get out. He said, yeah. He said, you ain't been gone just a minute. He said, I was sitting here checking my messages on computer. And he said, all of a sudden, he said, just something hit that thing. He said, it went whoom. And he said, I watched that thing rock back and forth, Mark. He said, it scared me to death.
Oh my gosh.
So we get out. I go back there looking for a rock or anything. He's found nothing. So he starts calming down. So I said, well, since something happened right here, we're going to sit right here. I said, because if that was what that was, it ain't went nowhere. So I parked my truck right by the shooting house with my tailgate down, pointed downhill, kind of. And me and him sitting there on the tailgate, just talking, having a good conversation. He's still a little tore up about the shooting, the sign-in board. And it was one of those nights that there's a little ambient light, just enough that you can see stuff pretty good, It wasn't a full moon night, but there's enough light that you could see. And he said something to me. He said, hey, he said, down there on the side of that road, is there a big old stump on that left side of the road? I said, no, there ain't no big stump down there. So I went to looking, and we could both see this big blob looking thing sitting on the side of the road. And we both staring at it, and about that time it stands up and walks across that road. That son gun grabbed me. Did you see that? I mean, and I saw he could say for the next. I said, "Yeah, I seen it. That's what it is, man." I said, "You just seen a booger cross that road right there."
Oh,
Man, it got him so excited, but he was tore up about it too, and he went
There's a
with
lot
me
to
a bunch of more times. But he became a believer that night, that quick. Now that don't always happen.
right.
I mean, it don't always line up like that. But that night he got a dose of one hitting that that sign-in board, and then he got one stand up, walk across that road, And he said, "Man, I never believed it, man." He said, "I've seen ghosts, I've seen stuff in cemeteries, but," he said, "that right there was flesh and blood that walked across that road." And I said, "Yeah, that was one of them." And now the other guy, he's kind of skeptical, but also he'd had some little weird things happen. Well, he come up there and sit with us one night, and he had parked right next to the edge of the woods, and we were all sitting over here in a little group, just talking, listening. And he'd brought him a big old Snickers bar. That's when they first come out with them king size, if you know what I'm talking about, them old big ones. And he had him like a Dr. Pepper or something over in the truck. He said, "Man, I'm going to go get my Snickers and my drink. I'll be right back." He walks over there. We see him open his truck up because the light comes on. And we see him start looking around. He's looking up on his dash. He's looking in his seat. And then we hear some choice cuss words come from over there. And he raised his head. He said, "Man, my Snicker bar is gone." He said, "I laid it right here on the dash." He said, "It's gone."
Window open.
Window open, yeah. We walk over there and we tear his truck apart, look up under it. We look everywhere. His Snicker bar is gone. Now, his Dr. Pepper wasn't because it was laying in the seat. But he laid that Snicker bar right up there in front of the steering wheel on the dash. And it was gone. He was mad. Boy, I mean, he was mad.
He wanted that Snickers.
He was mad, but also he was tore up too the other way. He was like, "Man,
Right.
y'all ain't kidding about it." He said, and then he kind of wanted to accuse one of us going
You
over
got my
there.
Snickers.
I said, "Man, think
Like your
about
mama. Like your mama. Let me smell your breath.
But that night he became a believer, and he went with me a good many times, and he finally got him a good experience too one night, more than the Snicker bar. I was building a small fire. We was over at the lake. There's a 7-acre lake on the club, and we went over there, and I was building a small fire, and he said, he reached over and started hitting me on the shoulder, and he said, hey, real soft. I said, "What is it?" He said, "Man, there's little sticks coming out of the bushes over here hitting you in the back. Ain't you feeling that?" "No, I ain't feeling no." I said, "What are you talking about, little sticks?" He said, "Little sticks, 2 or 3 inches long." He said, "They're all behind you right there laying on the ground." He said, "I've been watching them lob out of the bushes over there towards you." I turned around, sure enough, it was little bitty sticks, about like if 4 or 5 of them laying behind me. And he said, "You see that bush right over there?" He said, "Yeah." He said, "That's where they're coming from." He said, "I watched them come out of there." Because he said the fire would catch them when they come out, the reflection from the fire would, he could see them. And because that little fire, I mean, it was putting out 6, 7 foot,
Yeah.
And he said, "I can see them coming over." He said, "That's hitting you right in the back the whole time," which I had a coat on too that night.
Right.
So it was pretty chilly. He said, "There's one right there." I said, I wouldn't doubt it. I wouldn't doubt it a bit. Of course, we sat down and we started paying attention there, but we never did see nothing. But that made him a pretty much believer that night. Between the Snickers bar and him witnessing the little sticks, being thrown, he became a believer. And then he finally actually, on a whole different piece of property, seen one 7, 8 years later, come up out of a creek bed. He was deer hunting, and this place where he was hunting is known to have them, and he actually got to witness one. So he's full blown now. He's a full blown believer. He still goes some. He ain't been with me in the last few years because of the way he's been working, and his wife had a lot of health problems, but he was full blown there for a while. And
Well, Greg brought up something earlier, and I heard the story after I got to Hollins, but I'm assuming I know that there's been more than one abandoned tent found. But you were the one that found it at Hollins, right?
well, there was a group of us. We were
Okay.
actually having a Bigfoot outing, a camp out. Bunch of us got in there on Friday. We noticed the tent sitting way down in that bottom. If you remember where that bottom is, that's where Pat and Joe camp at a lot of time. That we call that little bottom.
Off down it
We know-
turns to the right a little bit. Yep.
We noticed the tent sitting down there, and we could see coolers. You could see all their stuff down there. Didn't think much about it when we all got there on Friday. We thought maybe they'd gone to town or something, to get supplies or whatever. Come on nighttime, nobody showed up, and we said, well, that's kind of odd. But we didn't go no further with it. Well, the next day, people got talking about, hey, man, we might need to go down there and check on that because nobody showed back up, and we can see coolers and chairs and all kind of stuff laying out down there. So we all walked down there, a bunch of us, about 7, 8 of us. And sure enough, we get down there, everything is there. But you can tell that the zipper on the tent had been broke. So the tent was halfway open. At first, we got a little scared that we was fixing to find a body.
Right.
It came to all our minds like, Lord, is there a body laying in there? Well, the guy that was with us, the one that put on that outing, he was also law enforcement at the time with a government agency. He finally decided to enter the tent just to see, and so he enters the tent with us all, the ones of us standing there. And he comes out with identification and everything. There's kids' clothes, there's women's clothes in there. But he comes out with a woman's identification with her driver's license, several other stuff. I think the insurance card. It was I can't remember what all was in that purse. And we, so that we already knew this was getting odd now. This is done, took a whole different, thing. So one of the guys raises open the cooler. Of course, the ice is done melting and it's water in there, but there's meat and all kind of stuff in there, and it's done spoiled. You can tell it's done spoiled. It had that smell. They had a water bag up on the tree that was still half full of water. A brand new camping stove there. The stove ain't never been used. They done took it out of the box, but it never been used. There was some other, I can't remember, some chairs or something else there. But it was just odd that there was kids and women's clothes for her identification in there, and plus her makeup. She left her makeup kit. So he said, I need to turn this into, the game wardens or the forest rangers. And in fact, he went and called them, but they did not come. This is what's strange about this. They did not come. He did go get it turned into them, but we never heard another peep from that. That tent ended up sitting there for over a month before it disappeared. But that whole weekend, we never seen a game warden, a forest ranger, or a county deputy, or nobody come in there to go to that tent. During that time period, I did look for missing persons from our area. I searched Talladega County, Clay County, Coosa County, some of the counties I live around, and there was nothing about a younger female being missing that I could see. Of course, if she wasn't reported missing, it's not going to be there. A few people think maybe she was maybe she just got out of there in a hurry. Maybe jumped in her car and left. We just don't know. And I still don't know for this day about that. It's just crazy. And we got talking to the guy that lives down there. You may have seen him when he come through that day, Roger, the guy that lived pretty close. Every time we have an outing, he comes sits with us for a while.
I think I know. Yeah.
Yeah, the gentleman in the gray Chevy truck. Yeah,
Yep.
older gentleman.
Yep.
I got to quizzing him about that area a good bit, because the reports of the hunter being found killed, back in the early '80s there, and I went to quizzing him about that area a good bit, and he said, yeah, he said, I asked him, I said, they find many people dead down here? He said, yeah, pretty regular, or something of that nature.
Oh my
I said, huh? He said, well, most of them is drug related. I said, drug related? He said, yeah, they'll find them in their car, passed away, or find them in a tent, passed away, or, he said, oh,
where we camp at?
not just there, but over that general area.
I got you. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
In fact, last week I heard they found a dead body out there somewhere.
Look,
out there,
that's a weird place to start with all the
Yeah.
energy and everything we've seen and recorded and heard, and oh my gosh.
I did
I'm not too sure I want to go down there now.
I don't want to go
No,
back.
you be all right. You be fine.
I know, I'm teasing.
It is a strange area, and over the years there have been some people go missing that they never found. Every now and then they do find bodies in there in places. A lot of times they said the person died of natural causes. Then sometimes they said the person was murdered, and somebody just went out through there and dumped them. But that's not all the time. I mean, we did have a body found out there this past week. I heard. I don't know all the details to it, but there's been several tents found in that campground deserted, besides the one we found. Really don't know what went on there. Now, of course, I've heard that from around Cheehaw, up in Chocolaca, and places where they find tents with no band. And me and Greg and my boy found one at Greg's place several years ago. Me and Greg and my son pulled up down there on that river, that campground, and there was a brand new tent laying on the ground and a few other odd and ends there. A very expensive tent. And while we were there, some stuff started happening. We had a big tree fall not far from us. It sounded like a bulldozer pushed a tree down up there. And then my boy walked down the creek bank a little piece, or the river bank, and Greg was taking some pictures, and a couple people said they thought they seen something behind a tree when my boy went down through.
Is that the black bluish sheen? But there's a picture he showed me that it looks like something's like arm is out behind the tree, but it's really it's so black it's almost bluish. Is that the
may
one?
be it? It may be it. I think Greg's in here. He can tell you.
Yeah. And then the next picture, there's nothing there, right? It's just it. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, he said that's correct. Yeah, there he is.
Yes.
That's correct.
So
that was odd. That was odd while we were there. I was feeling a vibe. I know Greg was too. We both were feeling. Of course, I don't know if my boy was or not, but we both were feeling a vibe. Especially after the big tree hit the ground, and then we looking right there in these abandoned tents that were practically new and very expensive type tents. I believe Spencer looked at them. He said, "Man, them expensive tents." I can't remember what else was left there. There was a few other odd ends left. It was just odd,
we found an abandoned tent in Red Hollow. And you know how when that material is out in the sun for a long time, how to fade out a little bit and get, we went up on that knob and I saw it and I'm like, oh, I don't want to disturb whoever's there. But the cooler had been thrown across the drive and it was laying there with the top open. and we eased up there, and I peeked, I was still in the truck. I peeked in there, and there was like bedding and stuff like that. But I was same thing you said. I was scared. I was about to see a body,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
you kind of have to check it out and call authorities if there's something there, right? You
Right,
can't just,
right.
you can
Yeah,
leave, but you don't
you want
need
to
to.
try to do the right thing, or at least you feel
Right.
obligated to.
And then when we turned around on that knob overlooking the river and started back down, that's when I saw all those tracks out there from a few hours before. So I don't know whether they left that night or had been there for exposed in that sun up there, for a month or so. So, but it was wintertime.
Right.
I know they don't keep up with records of all this, but it'd be interesting to know how many abandoned campsites. I think, was it Joe and Jesse on Hellbent Holler? They found one in LBL.
Right.
Those and expensive boots and everything too. It's just that's not normal. I mean,
No, it's
you're
not.
leaving in a hurry, right? Whatever you're running from, you value your life over your belongings.
Right.
So
Well, I know that's how I felt about the one at Greg's, that somebody was getting out of there in a hurry. And I feel like the one at Hollins was the same way. I feel for them to leave all there left and then come back to get it. Them people were getting out of there in a hurry for some reason, or somebody got them. I don't know. I hate to speculate on that, but
right.
But there's other places in Talladega National Forest that abandoned camps have been found, and it's just strange when you hear about it, and especially when you don't never hear nothing else about it. You figure they'd come back later and say, well, these people abandoned the camp. Somebody got sick and they went to the hospital, or they got scared and they left. They just left their stuff. There's the problem. You don't never hear about it.
Right.
There's no follow up on it, or if there is, they're not releasing it to the public. And like I said, I went back really trying to watch missing persons from my area for a while. But here's the thing, the person may have been from somewhere else, and her people may have reported her missing and not even know where she's at.
Exactly. 2 states away, yeah.
And the same with Greg's, I think they find abandoned camps around Bankhead all the time too, kind of what I've heard. So,
So we're 2 hours and 16 minutes in. I want you to tell one more story, if you would. And just for a lot of people like this to look up old newspaper stories and stuff like that. And you,
like me.
Yes, exactly. Amanda is people. She's the one I'm talking about. She loves searching for stuff like that. So you're going to like this, Amanda. So Mark tells a story about an Alabama hunting fishing magazine type thing that actually reports a booger sighting. Is that right?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So what do you remember what the name of that was?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Back in the 90s, and Georgia has it too. A lot of the states have. We had Alabama Game and Fish magazine. In 1993, there was an article come out in January of 1993, if I remember correctly. It was called "Stalked in Dallas County." Dallas County is right across the river from Lowndes County. Where I seen my booger and where this guy seen his stuff wasn't too far apart. They're 4 or 5 miles from each other. Mr. Tall went and interviewed this guy too later on. His name was Greg, the guy he interviewed. He went and interviewed him after the magazine. I think he interviewed him sometime in the 2000s, and the guy went into depth more about what had happened down in there. But they had a hunting club in there. The guy had went into his tree stand, got up in the tree stand, was sitting up in it, noticed it was very quiet there where he was at that day. And he started hearing this chopping sound, and he compared it to a hog, how a hog would take their jaws and snap them. He said he could hear this snapping coming. Of course, he thought it was a hog because that part of Alabama was ate up with them. But what he sees in the next few minutes, he says, ain't no hog. He said, this is something on 2 legs, full of hair. And he said, it's kind of just searching around like it's looking for something. Of course, he's scared to death, even though he's sitting up there in the tree with a rifle, which I would be too. I'd be like, war in the world. But, you know, and his story is a little similar to mine, kind of. If you really go to looking at it, these hunter stories all are kind of similar if you really get to looking at them. So he keeps watching this thing, and this thing just keeps making these little noises, chopping noises, grunts, all this noise. He's terrified to death. He's thinking, how am I going to get out of this tree and get out of these woods? It's getting close to dark, and he said, I sure don't want to be in here with it after dark. This thing finally ambles off, and he hears it get out of, we can't hear it no more. He decides to get out of that tree stand. So he starts climbing down, and something falls out of his pocket and hits every rung of the ladder going down. He said it sounds like a bull elephant in a china shop. Yeah. He said he hears that thing coming back. He can tell.
No.
Oh no.
So he breaks and runs. He said, man, I'm running and slap through them woods fast as I can do it. And he said this is behind him. He can hear it. He finally breaks out into a big hayfield where his truck's parked at, and his father-in-law, I think it is waiting on him. He's mad because the boy hadn't showed up, and it's already after dark and all this. Of course, the guy's out of breath, and he said whatever it was stopped at the tree line into the hayfield. And, I mean, he goes into detail. Of course, I'm just skimming across the top of it, just kind of, you know, giving y'all what he's talking about. But years later, Mr. Towle would go to the Alabama Sportsman Lodge, which is there on Highway 80 right outside of Selma, but it's in the Lowndes County part of, in Lowndes County, right across from Dallas County. And if anybody wants to know what Dallas County, I know everybody's heard of Selma, Alabama. So that's where Dallas County is. Hotbed of boogers. That's where I seen mine. Mr. Terry that I done an interview, seen his years ago. That management area is well known for Bigfoot being on. Even the locals in there know they're in there. Them locals at night will not go outside. And if you go down through there, you talking about ever seeing every porch light and back porch light on. It's like that at nighttime down there. But that's but it's called Stalked in Dallas County, 1993 Alabama Game and Fish. If you're going to type it in, I would type it in on Google as Stalked in Dallas County. January 1993 Alabama Game and Fish. I don't know if the way I pulled it up last time I looked at it, it actually went to Mr. Tall Banco where he was talking about it, and it gave the full story. I can't remember what it was on. It was on something where he went into detail about it. For years, I had that magazine. I had saved a bunch of them. I had that one. But I cannot find it now. I can't find half them magazines unless they're still at my mother's house, and they still may be there. If I get a chance, I may this winter see if I can come across them. I used to save all my hunting magazines. I know I had some back into the 80s at one time, but
hopefully it turns up for you. That'd be cool to see.
It's amazing that somebody had the guts to actually publish that, you know.
Yeah. I can't remember who the author was that went and interviewed him. But I think you can find it because I put it in before and pulled it up. It's a very detailed, and when the Alabama Bigfoot.com was running, it was on there too. It was one of their first reports, because Mr. Towle went in and interviewed this guy himself. And the guy gave him a lot more detail. Come to find out, this hunting club had been dealing with these things for years. That just wasn't the first incident. they had people that would get out of that hunt club. They just quit hunting down there because what all was going on. And so that's another one that's been published besides the Chakalaka monster. It was publicized. I don't know what the news, Anniston newspaper used to be called something different back in the 1930s. That's when that article come out. And then Chilton County would be in the late 50s, early 60s. So if anybody wants to go research that, it'd be the Chilton County Peach Monster, Chilton County, Alabama, and then the Chakalaka Monster, from the 1930s. And then, of course, the Alabama Game and Fish article. And then there's something about a wolf woman around Mobile in the 70s. Was supposed to be terrorizing this neighborhood. And while they said it was a wolf woman because breast and all that stuff, it's a really well-known Alabama cryptid from down in that part of the country. And it's pretty well known. Then they said it just disappeared. It quit happening. A lot of people said it was a werewolf and she moved off. I don't know. But
well, what's wild is hearing the stories from way back when, and what the locals named these things, because what do you call it? What do you call something that you don't know what it is, or even it wasn't supposed to exist? So it's kind of funny, like once Bigfoot was coined, I guess it's like it stuck. And so I think, probably a lot of these creatures are Bigfoot, Dogman, whatever,
Right.
and just like I keep saying, it was hilarious. The people I talked to from Giles County over here back in the 40s and 50s called them the big monkeys. And they talked about them like it was just an everyday thing. Like, just deal with them, live with them, get along with them. Don't make them mad, don't irritate them. So,
well, that's just like the term booger. A lot of people laugh about that, but if you go back, that's what a lot of the older people would say. Hey, don't be caught in them woods after dark. The boogers might get you.
Yeah,
I've heard my whole life from my grandparents.
What are they probably talking about? We know what they're probably talking about. They're probably talking about Bigfoot.
Yeah,
and of course, booger might be really mean boogeyman, as the old, they used to say the boogeyman to get you.
Yeah.
Of course, us being Southerners,
right.
We probably had our own pronunciation for, now, we would say booger.
Wood boogers. Yeah. And depending on which holler, look, even now, I can go to Fayetteville and they might call a water faucet something else other than what I called it. So it's still here. It's, Georgia, Alabama. Y'all, I remember one of my good friends, he's passed away. He was an older gentleman, great guy in the community. He was from Alabama, and he's come in one day at our store. He said, "Roger, can I use your spigot?" I said, "If I had one, you could." What is that?
Yeah.
I don't know what that is.
Yeah, I didn't know. I never heard of a spigot.
Yeah.
He's your water spigot. I'm like, oh, let me go see what you're talking about. But yeah, it's just a little word. I love that though. I love that about the differences, And
you go to like you were just saying, you go to certain parts of the South. We're talking about the same thing. Sometimes we can have a different name for it. And so. But yeah, I think that's where the term booger was coming from. And that's why we really started calling them. Because when I started talking to the older people, when you say Bigfoot, they kind of get funny looking, but you say, well, booger. And then they, boop. I mean, it's
I know what you're talking about. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Like a light bulb went off, And them things. And they say, yeah, my Uncle so-and-so seen one of them things way back yonder, or, stuff like that. So I think yes.
And I was always like Amanda. When my grandmother would say booger, I was thinking boogeyman type thing, because she would tell her thing was she would tell ghost stories about And then one house, she lived close to a cemetery, and she hear a baby crying, several nights a week or whatever, around midnight, and that scared me to death. But anyway, we've had some new people come in. We've had a pretty strong audience tonight.
We have, yeah.
Mark, you bring them all to the yard.
As he's sitting in his yard.
Yeah, I know. Oh man, that's scary. But yeah, Jennifer Andrew said icebox. Yeah. Well, that's there used to be ice boxes, right?
That's right. They used
go
to have ice
town,
box.
buy your ice and bring it back and put it in the ice box. Yep.
In fact, I've some of my older kin folks still refer to a refrigerator as an ice box. They say, "Hey, go get you a drink out of the ice box." It's talking about refrigerator.
Same. My grandparents was still
my
saying
grandma,
the same thing.
she'd be hey, go to the Frigidaire and get so and so, and I'm like,
yeah, Frigidaire.
I'm like, Frigidaire. And I went out back, and they had a couple of older freezers and refrigerators for backup, and this one had more chrome than a '57 Chevy.
Oh yeah,
and it said frigid air on it, but she run it together, Frigidaire. And I think there's still people, older people in my family that call them Frigidaires. Frigidaire.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah, they get a lot of names. You hear it all the time, just like with Coca-Cola. We all say a Coke.
Yep.
You know.
And you better know what everybody wants. I mean, my buddy moved in here from Texas, and he's like, I'm buying. What do y'all want? Coke, 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 Coke. He come out with all Cokes. Well, what is this? I wanted a Sundrop. I wanted a Dr. Pepper. He said, y'all said Coke. I said, you got to know. You just got to know what.
You got to ask them what kind of Coke they want.
Yep. Y'all, I want to thank Mark Green. Like we could talk for hours, and we'll have him on again.
I feel like the conversation was just getting started.
Oh yeah. There's so much we could go into. I mean, so much that we'll have a show sometime, and we'll get into some theories from some people. Next week we got Kane Michael coming on. He sent a bunch of pictures and video. Y'all know he got attacked here a few weeks ago at night. He's got thermal imagery. The thing's throwing rocks up at him. He got in a high position in his cabin and is filming out the window, and that'll be a great show. He's always and we can pick up from Mark talking about the tree structures and all that. But Hillary, calm down. Everybody likes Kane's. He's got the white hair and the white goatee going on. So thank y'all for being here. We love y'all, and sometimes we had a long. On my end, we had a long day today. I got up at 3:30. We had Heather had surgery. She's fine, and I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to be locked in to do a show, but it's in my blood, I think, to hear the stories and ask the questions.
It really is.
And one of these days, I'm gonna let Amanda talk.
I catch myself. I realize, but I'm just so into listening. To listening to you, I want to ask a question, but wait, no, I don't want to interrupt quite yet. Let them keep saying, because I'm like, I don't want to mess them up and lose the train of thought, because I know I'm terrible. If somebody bumps in and asks me a question,
here we go. Amanda, do you have any questions for Mark?
Not off the top of my head at the moment, which is terrible.
Well, I'll say this. Me and Rebecca came over into Georgia. Well, we've been into Georgia several times here lately. Of course, we go back and see her people around Rome and Cedartown. But we went to a place she's never been to, because she's been all over Georgia. She used to be into kayaking, rock climbing. Mm-hmm. So she's been all in the Chattahoochee National Forest, all over, except for one spot. And that was right there at Chatsworth.
Yeah.
We went into there, and we came out over at Blue Ridge. I went all the way across that mountain.
Oh, you went over through the Cohuttas or over Fort Mountain?
I went through all that. Came into a place called Jack's River Campground.
Oh, it's so
man, that's a booger territory if ever been one right there. But
there's so many reports out of the Cohuttas up there, especially Jack's River. Yeah. And what's interesting actually is, now that I'm thinking of it, there's actually a report that we have there on the map at the museum of an abandoned campsite in that area.
Yeah, I can see that. That's a beautiful place. I'm wanting to go and camp at the ball field one night. What they call the ball field up there on the top.
Mm-hmm.
That's a beautiful campground. I want to go stay there. Then I'd like to go to Jack's River one night and stay in there. And when we went in there, I don't know how bear season is set up in Georgia. I need to look it up. But there was a bunch of guys and their families camping out in there, and they had their hound dogs with them, and they were bear hunters. So I don't know if they can run their dogs out of season or something, or
I'm not actually sure how that works.
Yeah, or Georgia maybe had some kind of early season, but I
or
wanted
maybe
to
they
go
were training
talk
them or
to
something.
Do I now?
Is it, or maybe they were training them or something that time of year?
I wanted to go talk to them because I really want to go say, hey guys, let me talk to you about something.
Right. Yeah.
I didn't know how that would go over. So
see if you can ease into the booger subject. Yeah, that's what
right.
I do. Like I was on a it wasn't a bus. We were training, and they were carrying us somewhere. And there was two people behind me. One guy was from Humboldt County, California, and another guy, he come from Minnesota. And one guy had a Bigfoot hat on, but I didn't see it. And I had just started doing this, and I heard him talking, and he's, oh, you're interested in Bigfoot? Well, yeah. One came into camp on us one night and kind of tore up the camp and scared all of us. And this other guy, I'm starting to listen. He said, well, we were on snowmobiles and we found a trackway, blah, blah, blah. I said, hi, I'm Roger Williams. Nice to meet y'all two fellas. So, and ended up getting some really, really good stories from those fellas. Amanda.
Right.
So if people are going to visit your area, North Georgia, I was there. I don't remember exactly when it was, but the colors of the trees were beautiful. Was it late October, or early November?
It should be late-ish October. And I say ish because 30-minute goodbyes. I say that because we're already starting to see a little bit of change in here. Like the dogwoods and are turning colors, and the tulip poplars in my yard at least are already starting to drop their leaves. So it won't be long before they'll start turning here soon. So I'm going to say probably middle-ish October.
And it's beautiful. We got lucky. We just went by, it was an accident at the right time of year. Y'all, they're making fun of our Southern goodbye. We have people from all over the country and all over the world. The show's over. We're just talking. Y'all can hang out if you want to. we do this around a campfire on a porch, on a store porch, drinking Cokes. So, this is the way we are. We and if you see any of us 2 weeks from now in another state, we're gonna be the same way. We're not. Yep. We're not putting on.
No, we're the same. We're at.
Yep.
We're the same.
All right.
I really appreciate y'all having me on tonight.
Oh man, yes, sir.
Yeah, it's been great. Really enjoyed listening.
I always enjoy you, Mark. I enjoy a lot of people, but you're just like me in a way. Look, this is my story. I'm not trying to convince you of anything. This is what I've seen. This is what I've heard. This is the evidence we found, and that's it. I'm not going to go out here and make a fancy video with pyrotechnics and try to draw, we just do what we do. Right. So anyway, y'all, we're going to get off here. Thank y'all. Misty, if you're still here, Thursday nights at 7 Central. She says she didn't get an alert, so I'm gonna send her a message. So, Mark, can't beat Mark. I'm not gonna brag on him too much, but I've already told him.
Before we officially end, because we do have audio listeners now. For those who want to follow Mark and what he does, definitely go and check out his YouTube channel, Cedar Creek Bottoms Farmstead Life. That's Cedar
she got
Creek
it.
Bottoms Farmstead Life. Yes, I did not stutter it.
You're doing real good.
Yeah.
Yep. Mark
so
knows
yes,
it
y'all please go and give him a follow, and you can also check out their other social medias as well.
And protect your Snickers at all times.
There
Yes.
you go.
All
Remember,
right,
they love Oreo cookies.
Oreo. Somebody gonna be getting a blizzard. All right, y'all. Y'all have a good rest of the weekend. And if,
Good
Mark,
night, y'all.
if you want to hang out for a
Enjoy it.
little bit, yes, sir. Bye-bye, y'all.
Bye-bye.